Welcome to the Dynasty Dugout Show, a podcast covering all things minor league baseball. Get a front row seat to the action with everything you need to know about the future stars of Major League Baseball. And now, here's your host, Chris Clegg.
Hello and welcome to the Dynasty Dugout Show. It is February the 26th. Spring training's in full swing, and we're going to talk about baseball today. We are talking about the top starting pitching prospects in the game. But first, this episode is brought to you by Connect Roasters, Ian Happ's coffee company. I've got my Gold Glove blend right here in this mug. It's a great blend. It's smooth as can be. I like to cold brew mine, but you can make it however you want to. You can get the Gold Glove blend, buy one, get one 50% off by going to connectroasters.com and using the code Dynasty Dugout, or you can use the link in the description. It'll automatically do it for you. I would encourage you to check it out. If you love coffee and you love baseball, what a perfect combo. Go check out Connect Roasters today and get you a bag of the Gold Glove blend. We're going to quickly deep dive into several top pitching prospects. It's a fun tier of top 10. We're going to discuss the top 10 today. I think there's a clear-cut top 5 starting pitching prospects in baseball. And then after that, it kind of opens up a little bit, but there is still plenty of talent to be had up and down the board. You know, honestly, I wouldn't fault you for ordering the top 5 guys in any particular way. I might be kind of on an outlier here, having my number one guy be a little different than most, but I have Bubba Chandler at the top. Why do I have Bubba Chandler at the top? Well, it starts with the athlete that Chandler is. He's an outlier athlete. He played football in high school and was going to play quarterback at Clemson. Also on the baseball field. I mean, he was just incredible two-way guy, shortstop, pitcher, and he finally gave up hitting to then focus on pitching. And the results have paid off. You look at what he has done the last few years, and Chandler is particularly elite in a lot of different areas. It's like we start with the profile. We look what he's done. You know, I think you have to start and look at the fastball. He has an outlier fastball. It's high IVB from the release spot. It misses a ton of bats. It sits 97 to 98. It's an elite pitch. It's a weapon for sure. He learned to command it. The command has gotten better on that pitch year over year, which has helped a ton. I think it's a 70 grade pitch. You look at the changeup, it gets heavy fading action, sits in the upper 80s. It misses bats. That slider's kind of evolved over time. In 2023, when I saw him multiple times live, it was more of a sweeper, and he kind of evolved it into more of a gyro type slider, tighter pitch, but I think it still grades as 70. It's so good, sitting 87 to 90. I think he's just a premier pitching prospect. He's ready to pitch in the Pirates rotation. He's got the stuff. The command and strike throwing have come along. Chandler checks every box. Jackson Jobe, I think he sits equally in that top tier with Chandler. He's got the stuff. He's pitched in the majors. He should pitch most of the year this season in the majors as well. So you look at the arsenal with Jackson Jobe, it's a fastball in the mid to upper 90s, high carry. It's a little less IVB. You know, Chandler's 18 inches of vert from 5'8". Jobe 17 inches of vert from 6 foot. It touches triple digits though. It doesn't matter. It's a very good pitch. You see the slider probably is being his best pitch. He registers spin rates up to 3,200 RPM. It's strong sweeping action in the low 80s. Misses a ton of bats. Changeup, good pitch as well. I think that's one of his bigger progressions in the last few years is we've seen the development of that changeup. Jobe added a cutter in 2024, and he added a curveball and a sinker coming into 2025, which could make all the difference in the world. That curveball is devastating from a pitch metric standpoint. I got some data on it, and it is wild. So I like Jackson Jobe a lot. He fits in this picture pretty easily. Now, Andrew Painter's probably the one where you're like, why have I not talked about Painter yet? I think Painter's extremely good. I mean, Painter was elite before he went down with Tommy John surgery. He was actually set to make his MLB debut as a 19-year-old before he had the injury during spring training. He came back in the fall league. I saw one of his full starts. I'll just throw it up here in the video if you're watching. We can talk about it, but you look at what I saw in the Arizona Fall League. I saw improved command throughout each start, which was good. Also saw the ability to give up a lot of fly balls, which, capably, it almost hurt him. I mean, Arizona, the ball's going to travel a little further, so that is worth noting. He set 97 in the AFL. He touched 100. The velocity is back. I mean, I saw him have fastballs up to 19 inches of vert. Average closer to 16, though. It's around 5 inches of horizontal. He's got a high release height, though. So it's not one of those flat vertical approach angles. It's not a high IVB over expected. Like, he's throwing from a 6'4" release height. So the high IVB is kind of more natural. And honestly, like, his IVB is actually below average for the release height. So that's important to note. I think that the fastball is a good pitch due to velocity, but the traits on it aren't anything outlier like Chandler or Jobe. Slider, I saw Painter throw the slider pretty consistently in the AFL. It was sitting 88, touched 90, had some good horizontal. The locations got better and better. I think that when you look at the sliders, like, location's going to matter, and he did a better job of burying them down and away from righties as the AFL progressed. So I'm curious to see what he looks like this spring with it. The curveball remained strong, sitting in the low 80s, and his changeup, it still showed some good traits as well. It's firm in the 90s, good fading action as well. So Painter's interesting because they are just going to slow play him. I mean, they've said he'll be up July-ish. They want Painter's best innings to be in the postseason. He's on a team that's going to make a run. So obviously you want your best pitcher healthy then. So that's something of note with Andrew Painter, is that they want him healthy in the postseason. So why is Andrew Painter third on the list? I think he needs to prove his fastball can play. The velocity's there. The shape is not. The secondaries are really good. I love Andrew Painter. If I didn't love him, I wouldn't have him as the third best pitching prospect in baseball. But I still think there's questions for me that I want to see answered. Can Painter be elite? Absolutely. That's why he's ranked number third of all pitching prospects. There's not that much of a difference between him and Chandler, if we're being honest. Now, number 4 is Chase Dollander. Dollander could be probably the best pitching prospect in the game and might be considered as such if he didn't pitch in Colorado. We know how hard it is to pitch in Coors Field, and I think he can overcome it. I've talked a lot about this. I've written about this. I firmly believe that Dollander can conquer Coors Field. He is the best pitching prospect the Rockies have had since Jeff Francis. I don't know. John Gray, really good pitching prospect, but John Gray never missed bats like Dollander did. John Gray didn't have the pitch metrics that Dollander has. So let's talk about him. Dollander's fastball, it's a 70 grade offering. Among pitchers who threw 500 fastballs in the minors last year, only 4 had swinging strike rates above 20%. Chase Dollander was one of them. He threw 1,200 fastballs, and he had 21% swinging strike rate. That's absurd. Sits 96, 97. It touches triple digits. It's one of the flattest fastballs in the game with a -4 vertical approach angle. 16 inches of IVB from his 5'5" release height is good. Now, he's going to lose a little bit of that in Coors Field because of the Coors effect, but at the same time, I don't think it's going to be enough to affect him. What Dollander's going to have to do, though, is be able to pinpoint his location better. Dollander has openly talked about where he likes to just throw down the middle or aim down the middle and let his pitches do his stuff. Now, in Coors, this fastball, he's going to have to be intentional about aiming above the zone if it's going to have a little more drop than he expects. He's going to have to hit the top of the zone for it to work. I think it can. So we'll see how that plays. Now, the curveball, beautiful, high-spinning, 2-plane break pitch, misses bats at a high rate, sitting in the upper 70s. The slider is really the go-to secondary, though. Sits around 88, touches 90. It's got traits where I think can be very successful in Coors Field, even with the changes in the pitch metrics. And honestly, I think it's going to be a good thing. He'll see a little more drop with the slider in Coors. I think that benefits him in a huge way, actually. He's still going to miss bats with it. The changeup's good. It's underrated. He doesn't throw it much, but it gets a lot of fade. It's going to lose fade in Coors. That will be okay. Dollander has a deep arsenal of pitches. He throws strikes in above average clip. He has all the ingredients to beat Coors Field. So, with that being said, next guy, he kind of rounds out this top tier of guys for me. That's Noah Schultz. Selected 26th overall in 2022, Schultz has done nothing but dominate in his professional career. 6'9", he's every bit of it. When I first saw him in 2023 with Kannapolis, when he walked out of the tunnel with the team, I was like, oh my gosh, there's no denying that that's Noah Schultz. He's very good. He was great in 2023. He had some injury issues, had 27 innings. 2024, 88 innings between high A and double A. He posted a 1.48 ERA in 61 double A innings. Like, that's absurd stuff. Considering how big Noah Schultz is, he commands his pitches extremely well. Strike rate was north of 64%, which is impressive for somebody with that big and that long of levers. Fastball lives in the mid-90s. It tops out at 98. Good arm side run. He lands it for strikes often. He works both sides of the plate well. Very low effort delivery. Like, when you look at Schultz, like, it's not a high effort delivery, and he makes this profile work really well. I think he can add more velocity too, and I believe that he will. Slider sits 79 to 83. It gets heavy sweeping action. I think he's comfortable front and backdooring hitters from what I've seen. I've watched him pitch live multiple times now. It consistently gets like 15 inches of sweeping action. It is a great pitch. Changeup showed pretty significant progress when I saw him from 2023 to 2024. That's worth noting as well. And while he's still primarily a fastball slider arm, I think the progression of the changeup will be huge for Noah Schultz. You could argue the fastball and slider are both 70 grade pitches. I wouldn't argue with you a bit because those pitches are very, very good. For his size, the command is impressive. It's the makings of a frontline starter for sure. They've babied him. He has never thrown above 4 innings in a start. 2025 needs to be the year where they say, we will let Noah Schultz go and see what he can do. I think many think he's going to be up early. I just don't believe that. I don't believe that the White Sox have any reason to push Noah Schultz up. He'll be 21 years old this year. There's no reason they push him aggressively. That just not going to, honestly. So I think he's a cup of coffee, August, September type. He's prospect eligible in 2026. Maybe I'm wrong on that. I just have a hard time thinking they push him super aggressively. So let's talk about some other guys as well. When we look at the next tier of arms, those top 5 kind of stand out above the rest for me. But the next group, I have Quinn Mathews as the next arm, and there's good reason why. I think if you watch Quinn Mathews' spring training start yesterday, you'll kind of see that. He was an innings-eating starter at Stanford. He set like 91 at Stanford. And then last year he comes into pro ball and he's sitting 94 to 95. Kind of insane. I mean, the performance standpoint was great. He struck out 202 batters across all 4 levels in 143 innings. He lapped the field in MLB strikeouts. Like, he by far dominated everybody. He's shown the ability to go deep in games. He's got a good arsenal. It's 17, 18 inches of IVB from a 5'7" release height. So, like Bubba Chandler-esque, like IVB there. Obviously not as good of a fastball from a velocity standpoint as Chandler, but still really good from that left side. It's good extension. He gets heavy whiff rates on the fastball. The slider, Mathews' most used secondary, sitting north of 85, having a good gyro shape as well. I love that pitch. Miss bats effectively, but his changeup shows heavy fading action, sits 81, 82. It was his highest whiff rate of any pitch last year. And again, it looked really good in spring training, in Major League spring training. He has a 2-plane curveball in the mid-70s. It's 4 true velocity bands with Quinn Mathews. When you pair the good strike throwing with his command and the arsenal improvements, Quinn Mathews is a bona fide Major League starter and probably like a bona fide mid-rotation starter at that, with the ability to potentially be more. He had a swinging strike rate north of 17% last year. The CSW was 34%, so he stole called strikes as well. I think he's going to make 20 starts in 2025, if we're being honest. I love what he brings to the table. Quinn Mathews, St. Louis Cardinals. Let's talk a little Thomas White here. He had a rocky start to his 2024 season. Very young lefty in the Miami Marlins org, but he progressed nicely. He showed significant strides with his arsenal in high A. He showed really good traits as well and results. 2.81 ERA, 29.2% strikeout rate, and a 9% walk rate. After 2 of the first 3 starts being rough, he had a 2.43 ERA in his final 85 innings. White dominates with a big fastball, low effort delivery. It sits 95, gets up to 97. It's 17 inches of IVB from a sub 6-foot release height, high spin rates, really advanced changeup from Thomas White as well, which is good from the left side. I think it plays super well with the fastball, late dive and fade. I think that it has very good vertical separation and good horizontal separation from the fastball as well. His go-to swing and miss pitch, though, is the slider. Sits 78 to 83, kind of ranges. It has a ton of vertical movement plus sweeping action. Very interesting pitch. It kind of has the depth of the curveball, but the sweeping action is there as well. It's really a 4-pitch mix when you factor in all that he throws. From the left side, Mathews is just so good. One of the best arsenals of any lefty in the game. And yeah, I think he's going to pop off this year. I'm really excited to see what Thomas White does. This next guy, Kumar Rocker of the Rangers, he's had the biggest roller coaster of his career as anybody. At Vanderbilt, Kumar Rocker was can't-miss prospect. You watched his Vanderbilt starts, it was dominant, but can't-miss prospect. He gets hurt. He doesn't sign with the Mets. He doesn't go back to school. Rather, he pitches an indie ball. The Rangers take him number 3 overall in an underslot deal to then get Brock Porter, which hasn't worked out to this point. But then he goes down with TJ. He made 6 starts in 2023. He was looking decent. And then he went down with Tommy John. He came back last year and looked like the best version of himself. Between AA and AAA, a 0.91 ERA with 47 strikeouts in 29 innings, just 4 walks. He earned his trip to the majors where he was good for 11 innings. Rocker's an example of how pitching prospects can change their value so fast. It's important to see. If you remember in 2022, Arizona Fall League, his mechanics were all out of whack. He did not look good at all. But he came back with stellar command, elite stuff. I mean, we're talking 96, 98-mile fastball that touched triple digits. It's really good IBB from his release point. It's got good horizontal as well, and 7 feet of an extension allow it to play up even more. That gyro slider that sits 90 miles an hour is insane. Misses bats at a high clip. He averaged, nearly 15 inches warm side fade with his changeup. Doesn't throw it often, but it'll be a pitch that I'll be watching closer this year because he threw it a little bit in his start in spring training. He had a 71% strike rate last year. That's a huge jump. Zebby Mathews was right in that range. Zebby Mathews is known as a pinpoint command control guy. Rocker also is working on a cutter and a new curveball this year, so watch out for that. The next 2 guys on the list are hurt. Alejandro Rosario unfortunately went down. He blew out his arm. He's having Tommy John or an internal brace. They haven't decided yet. He's going to take a little tumble in my rankings, but I did want to mention him because he kind of shadow fit here before the injury. And Travis Sykora has a hip injury. Don't think it affects him, though. So I do want to talk a little bit about Sykora, and then I'll hit on one more guy before getting out of here, finish the top 10. Sykora was the best start I saw last year. I went to 70 games last year in the minors, and he was the best start. He was dominant all year. I mean, I saw a lot of good pitchers. I saw Painter. I saw Schultz. I saw Bubba Chandler. I saw... who else did I see? I've seen a lot of these guys. And honestly, I mean, Sykora's start that I saw was super good. You look at the results, he had a 2.33 ERA and 129 innings, 27 walks, 129 strikeouts. I mean, the stuff was just off the charts. He made 2 starts in the playoffs, 10 scoreless innings, 2 hits, 1 walk, 18 strikeouts. Yes, he sat in single A all year. He probably need to be promoted, but fastball sits 94 to 96, touch 99. He commands it well. Everybody thinks the fastball is the best pitch. It's not. It's his 3rd pitch, if we're being honest. Outside of velo, I mean, it's good, but it shows you how good it was. It had a 34% whiff rate last year. He gets good extension from his 6'6" frame. Slider had a 40% whiff rate on it. 50% whiff rate. He used it about 40% of the time. Those numbers mixed up. 81 to 84. It's got good depth and late horizontal movement on it. He generates some ugly swings from hitters, registering a whiff rate north of 50%, as I mentioned. And his split changeup, beautiful pitch, plus pitch in my opinion. 82 to 85 miles an hour, late depth and fade, primarily used against left-handed bats. He does bore it in on righties at times. I mean, when you have 2 pitches get 50% whiff rates, I don't care if it's single A, you're pretty good. He repeats his mechanics well. Some have knocked his mechanics because his big leg kick. I mean, if you squint, you can see Paul Skeens esque in the delivery. Stuff's there. Sykora throws strikes. He's got room to add to his frame. It's a mid-rotation arm long-term. He does have a hip injury. He's not going to pitch till May. That is worth noting. So the final guy I want to talk about before getting out of here is Chase Burns. He's yet to pitch professionally. He was drafted last summer at Wake Forest, spent time at Tennessee, transfers to Wake, and he absolutely dominates. I mean, 100 innings in college last year, 16 starts. He had a 2.7 ERA, 191 strikeouts in 100 innings and 30 walks. 49% strikeout rate is absurd. I mean, he had a palatable 7.7% walk rate. Entering the year, college season last year, it was primarily fastball slider, but he added a change and a curve. That fastball is an elite weapon. He averaged 98, touched 101, 20 inches of IVB on it. It is relatively flat at times. It's like 3 inches of horizontal, but good IVB, high release height though, 6'5" release, blows it by hitters. He had a 36% whiff rate on it in college. Slider was his second most used offering in the upper 80s. It reached 92, has late depth, had 8 inches of sweeping action. It missed bats at an absurd 65% clip. 65% whiff rate on the slider last year. Curveball gives him a good pitch for north to south movement, has a little bit of sweep as well. He also throws that changeup. It's a distant fourth pitch, though. I'd like to see that further developed. It sits in the low 90s, has some carry to it with 13 inches of horizontal. Burns had a home run problem. I'd love to see him curb that a bit. That is kind of my worry. But if Burns can curb the home run problem a little bit, I know he's going to Great American Ballpark. This is elite stuff. I mean, Burns' fastball-slider combo is so good. I hope the Reds further develop the curveball, but I think that we could see Chase Burns really take off. Now, that's going to do it. We'll talk more pitching prospects tomorrow, but this has been the top 10. Thanks for tuning in. Unfortunately, Alejandro Rosario went down. He'd take a little hit in my rankings, but we'll talk about him tomorrow. Thanks for tuning into the Dynasty Dugout Show. Be sure to check out Connect Roasters. Be sure to sub to the YouTube channel and wherever you get your favorite podcast. We will see you tomorrow.